Aura Martinez, a fascinating young woman who is a wellness coach. She's an author. She talks about the importance of the path of self-discovery and why you should do it, why it's important to do it. She's very revealing, and she makes some great kind of confessions about herself and how she tries to help people and coach people through this path. She's a flight attendant. She sees many cultures often. She has these great videos on YouTube where she helps people, kind of short videos on different topics, and very intelligent, very smart. I love her direction. I love her message. Again, she's an author. She's many things, and I really enjoyed this conversation. I hope you do as well. Thanks for listening. Hi, I'm Joey Pinz. People ask me, how did I lose 130 pounds? The quick answer is always discipline. I started my business, wasn't paying attention to my health, was eating too much, drinking too much sweets. My daughter was born. Next thing I know, I'm pre-diabetic, I have hypertension. I knew something had to change. Discipline. I, like many of you, have faced many challenges in your career, in your family, in your life, in your faith. How did you attack them? How did you approach them? How did you solve them, hopefully? It all had to have some degree of discipline. I'm also asked, how did you found and start a tech business that lasted over 25 years? Discipline. I was committed to it, enjoyed technology, didn't enjoy some aspects of it, but knew it was necessary. Discipline. Our podcast mission: how do we use discipline to better ourselves and society? Join me, please, as I talk to interesting people and discuss how they use discipline in their family and their passion and their careers and how it helped them. Our podcast vision: growth through learning from others. Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations. It'll be light and serious. Join us, please. Thank you for consideration. What a pleasure to meet you. Aura E Martinez. Is that how you?
Yes, Aura E Martinez. E stands for Elena, by the way, in case you're
Ah,
curious. It's two names.
such a pleasure to meet you. I really enjoy
Same.
I enjoy your videos. I So tell me, why should why should people start down the road of self-discovery? Why should we do it? I mean, aren't people kind of satisfied where they are?
Self discovery is what we are meant to be doing throughout our whole life. Because what self discovery does is that it allows us to be connected to the deepest, truest part of ourselves, which leads us to our own wisdom
Hmm.
that guides us throughout every season of our life. I have to say this:
Wow.
when we lose that connection to that deeper part of ourselves, that is where we find ourselves missing out on realizing what season we are in our life. And when we miss out on that, that's where we end up prolonging the frustration that sometimes we find ourselves in our life, prolonging that feeling of feeling lost in our life. And we can miss out on what it is that we're meant to be doing in our next chapter in our life. We can remain for too long in a chapter that was meant to already finish, that was
Hmm.
already meant to be closed. And so I think that a lot of the suffering, not pain, because life inevitably will come with pain, but suffering is optional though.
Hmm.
And so sometimes the reason why we find ourselves in such unnecessary suffering is because we miss out in that inner wisdom that can only come through self discovery.
Fascinating. You mentioned the seasons of our life. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes. As we start growing and getting older, we we do go through seasons in our life. There's going to be things within us and outside of us that are going to change. And it is so important that we become so aware of that, because when we don't, we miss out on what it is that we're meant to be doing in our life. So, say for example, it's the only example that comes up to me right now. For those that become parents, right? You have that season where you have your newborn. Then the child gets older and it becomes a different season, right? And after the adolescence, there's a different season, right? And so it is so important that we become aware of those seasons so that we don't miss out on the season that life is putting us through and the season that we within us that we're supposed to go through. I hope that's making sense. I know that I'm probably comparing apples with oranges, but it's the only thing that came up for me right now at this moment. And the same thing goes for anything in our life. Say, for example, as an adult, we go through different seasons. Say, for example, as a matter of fact, something just came up for me and I need to mention that. This whole pandemic, it really placed a lot of people in seasons that they did not expect to be in,
Hmm.
right? A lot of people that either lost their job or either that were forced to retire. When we can understand that everything has a beginning and an ending, and I know I'm being very raw here, that also includes a job. When we can understand that, we can learn to not be so attached to anything and everything in life, but to have the attachment within our own self. That is the attachment that we need to have.
Hmm.
Because when we attach to that, we make our own selves, our own faith, for lack of a better word, the security that we need to know what it is that we need to be doing in our next step in our life. Let me know
Interesting.
if you need anything else elaborating, because I know that was a whole bunch and I know it was deep.
So it's not just 4 seasons.
And no, it's not just 4 seasons. There's many little, even micro seasons in our life that we go through, even when in our own career, even in our own personal life, right?
So
Even in the
so was it sorry, go,
no,
please.
oh, no, 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 it's okay. Even in our relationships that we have with others, it goes through
Hmm.
seasons. And so it's so important that we have that level of awareness so that we know, okay, what should be the next step here, right? And that comes through self discovery.
It certainly does. So the difference between a season and a chapter,
Hmm,
is there one?
hmm. I think it's one of the same
Hmm.
in the sense that there will be changes in our life, right? Seasons, it comes and goes, but then it comes back, right? In a different
Mhm.
way, right? Because even fall of last year may not necessarily feel like the same fall this year. Whereas a chapter, once it ends, but it ends because we're meant to start something new in our life. So I feel that life is like seasons. We are like seasons because there will be a season in our life that may repeat itself, but just in a different way, right? Just in a different way. But yet a chapter ends and we're meant to let it end because there's something more delicious, more beautiful, more fulfilling that is meant to arise in our life.
Very interesting. Very interesting distinction there. I have friends that are very, I don't know what the term should be. They follow the astrological signs, so they believe in
Yeah.
seasons in your life, and describe just a little bit differently. But it's fascinating. Now you have great videos on your YouTube where you kind of go less than 10 minutes. You kind of take a topic and you really drive it home. The one I really liked, I marked a few down, but is it time to change your glasses? Where you talk about
Yes.
perspective and how everybody's perspective. Should you look at it from a different angle.
Yes. Yes,
I
yes,
really
yes.
enjoyed that.
Yes. Well, thank you. Thank you for your compliment. Thank you. And it's so important that we become aware of the glasses that we're utilizing on a daily basis and even on an hourly basis, right? And the reason why I say that is because how we, whether it is consciously or subconsciously, decide to view things is what's going to determine how we're going to feel about what we're experiencing. And it's also going to determine whether we're going to respond or we're going to react. Those are two
Hmm.
different things. And so, what determines the glasses that we decide to put on is who is actually in the driver's seat of our life, right? Because there's different parts of us that throughout the day may shift, right? It sounds like I'm talking about different personalities. I am not. What I'm
Hmm.
talking about is we all have our higher self and our lower self, right? And even within those two versions of us, there is what I like to call sub archetypes, right? There's different levels to that. And so depending on who that version of us is that's in the driver's seat, that's going to determine how we view things, how we respond or how we react to things. And so that level of awareness of where we're at and what we're feeling is so so important. Let me just share this with you. I hope you don't mind. Apart from being a
Please.
self-discovery and empowerment coach, I'm also a flight attendant.
Yeah.
And as a flight attendant, I get people telling me, I don't know how you're so cheerful. Oh my God, you're so well. One of my biggest secrets every morning, especially when I'm jet lagged, right? Especially when I'm jet lagged. First thing in the morning, I need to connect with me.
Hmm.
I need to connect with how am I feeling? How am I feeling? What is going on within me? And the reason why I do that is because I want that level of awareness that should anything happen, a passenger gets rude, a passenger's in a bad mood, none of that can touch me. The reason why none of that can touch me is because I know who's in control from the moment I start my morning. And the reason why I know who's in control of me is because I'm first in awareness of what I'm feeling, what's going on within me. So, say for example, if I'm very jet lagged, which happens more often than not, I recognize that. I recognize that. I say, okay, I am very tired today. I am so out of it today. So, first thing I do, connect. Then, second, I acknowledge what I'm feeling. And as I acknowledge what I'm feeling, what that does is, and this is very important for everybody to hear, because when you can do this for yourself, this is what's going to allow you to elevate from any lower level state that you may find yourself in, whether that's frustration, exhaustion, anger, whatnot. As I acknowledge it, I give myself permission to feel that way. See, a lot of times we think that all this being positive and being high vibe, that's the way I'm supposed to feel on a consistent basis.
Hmm.
And by doing that, we ignore a very important element, and that is that we're human, right? And as human beings, we're going to feel all sorts of emotions, and all of that is to be embraced. But embracing doesn't mean that you're going to give into it.
Hmm.
What that means is you're going to acknowledge it and give yourself permission to feel that way. Understand why you're feeling that way, because as you're understanding what you're feeling, you're able to transform it. So, as I understand that I am jet lagged, I can allow myself to feel that way, but then decide step number three, decide how do I want to feel? Despite how tired I feel right now, I'm going to decide how I want to feel. And as I'm deciding how I want to feel, I can then elevate, even if it's a little bit, elevate to that state that I want to be. And so that's the reason why my colleagues and passengers are able to experience me in that state. Not because I wake up feeling all that great and, oh, I'm in so much energy, but because I accept where I'm at, I acknowledge it, but I decide where it is that I want to be and how it is that I want to feel.
Fascinating. And that's more on perspective. You're deciding.
Yeah,
So you're changing your glasses.
yeah,
I rem
consciously.
Consciously. I remember, we were at a fair, this is some years ago, and we noticed a booth, and this person had really loud music on, and we went over there, and this gentleman had, half of one arm and no other arm, and he was on a little, he was on a little board with wheels, and he was painting with his feet. So between his toes were brushes, and he was dipping in and he was painting. And he would go over and he'd lean over and he'd crank the music up, and it was the Beatles, and then after 2 minutes it was the Rolling Stones, and it was Jimi Hendrix, and he was painting, and we were all going, that painting doesn't make any sense. He's not a very good painter. I don't know what the thing is. And he'd go over and he'd turn the music up, and he'd go over to Jimi Hendrix and to the Doors, and then he was all done and he leans back, and we're all, we don't want to say anything bad, because I mean, he's obviously has these, deformities. And he says, sometimes you really have to look at things. He turns to us. You have to look at things differently, and even sometimes upside down. So with his feet, he gets his painting, which was about 5 feet by 5 feet, and turns it around upside down. And it's a perfect drawing of John Lennon and Jimi Hendrix. And it was wonderful. And
Wow.
we all applauded. And I'm getting chills just thinking about it now. And he purposely did that. You may look at something and not see, but just change your perspective a little bit and you see something wonderful.
Yes. Oh, wow. That is one powerful story. And you see that capacity that he has, everyone has. I think that one of the mistakes that we make in terms of our thinking, and I dare to say it's a mistake because it hurts us in such a profound way, is when we think that only some people have that capacity and not others. We all have that capacity, but we need to make that conscious choice. See, ooh, I'm about to say something. I'm about to say something. It's probably going to trigger some people. And if it does, great. Because if it triggers you, it's going to really sink in, right? It is easy to give in to anger, to sadness, to jet lag when I'm jet
Mm.
lag. Like it's easy. That's the easy path, right? Believe it or not, happiness is harder. It's harder in the sense that, I'm going to explain. It's harder in the sense that it requires a level of strength to feel something or even decide to something that right now you're not feeling. And that's why we hear this term, take the high
Mm.
road, because making that conscious decision to be conscious enough of what it is that you're feeling and what it is that's going on within you. And despite that, you're going to make the conscious decision about how you're going to view the situation and that you're going to respond rather than react. That is the challenge. That is the challenge. It's easy to be in frustration. It's easy to be sad. And I know that may sound like, oh, Aura is being very insensitive. No, I'm not. I'm being real. because it could be very easy for me to give into every time I'm jet lagged. You cannot imagine how exhausted I feel. It would be very easy for me to give in. And I have to consciously make that decision, sometimes on a minute by minute
Mm.
basis. I have to be like, let me take a deep breath, something to drink, to really, and that really takes a lot. And that isn't any different from when you are viewing your reality and you don't like the way your reality is, and you got to remind yourself, no, I'm going to decide to look at this situation differently. That painter, he could very easily be frustrated because here he is, no arm, just his legs, but he decided, I'm going to take the high road. But everybody has that capacity should they decide to.
Very interesting. You mentioned when you wake, you have to kind of spend a moment with yourself. Is that meditation? Do you meditate every morning?
I call it meditation in the sense that it's not meditation as in, the
Hmm.
mudras and the ums. I don't do none of that. I just need to sit with myself, with my coffee, and just sit with my thoughts and just sit with what I'm feeling and just sitting with myself. Just like I would sit with a friend. I think a lot of times we don't spend enough time with ourselves. Something that this pandemic forced us to do. And so then it is no wonder that sometimes we find ourselves not understanding why we're doing the things that we're doing. And then we feel like we're running like a chicken without a head, so to speak. It's because we don't even spend time with ourselves. That's why self discovery is so important. Now, the kind of self discovery that I really take my clients through is a whole different. I mean, I go profound. Just like when you visit a country, and what makes a country interesting is not just the beautiful buildings and the beautiful places, it's also the ugly parts. Like in Brazil, the favela, right?
Mm.
That there's these tours to the favelas in Rio. It's so important that we take ourselves through those ugly parts, right? Because those ugly parts, those shadow parts of us, they have a very valuable message for us. And they are what take us to our light, right? And so that's the kind of journey I actually take my clients on. And I'm telling you, it really opens you up in such a way that you're like, wow, I didn't even realize that this is the reason why I've been doing all the things that I've been doing.
Hmm.
And so it's so important that we take ourselves there. And many times that's what we avoid because it feels painful, because it feels sensitive, because there's a wound there. But we gotta go there because that has so much value for us. And that part is what takes us to exactly what it is that we want in our life.
Very interesting. And that brings to the next video that I really liked is that missing out on your present gift
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and what realizing that you have it and what are you doing with it. I really enjoyed that.
Yes. All of us, we have a gift, and every moment is a gift. Even the moments that feel so dark for us. And I know that it may sound easier said than done. I say it because for experience and even current experience. So many times as human beings, we miss out on the gift that we have of this present moment, even in the things that we do not like about this present moment.
Hmm.
And what we fail to realize is that the present moment that we are experiencing, even when it looks dark, even when it seems yucky, they're there to prepare us. They're there to lay some kind of foundation that you may not be able to see at this very moment. And I think the key, and I'm telling you because this is something that I have been struggling with for the longest time and I'm learning it even till today, is that we have to trust that The foundation that is being laid, no matter how painful it may be because of the circumstance that you may be going through, is there for your quantum leap.
Hmm.
Is there to elevate you. Is there because everything that is occurring, none of it is a mistake. None of it. And another second big mistake that we can make, right, in our thoughts is thinking and viewing what it is that we're going through as a mistake or as wrong. No, it's not. So what is it that you're meant to learn from what it is that you're experiencing? What is it that you're meant to, or better yet, in what way are you meant to grow because of what you're going through, right? So when we fail to see that, to realize that, we miss out on precious gifts. And it isn't until sometime later that then we be like, oh my gosh, I wish I could go back because I would have appreciated this more, right? I guess the way to avoid that is by deciding to view every moment as a gift.
Hmm. You've made this like kind of the statement a few times, what we're meant to do, what we're meant to see. That kind of suggests a higher being, a direction, a kind of chosen path. Elaborate on that.
Well, I want to say this because as I'm hearing that, I think people can I'm trying to
Hmm.
find the right words to say this. I wouldn't want this to be misinterpreted for the fact that perhaps there is a destiny
Fate.
or
Yeah.
fate, because I don't necessarily believe in that. And the reason why I don't believe in that is because that almost implies as if we don't have any control over our life, which we do. So at all times, we are always choosing, right? Now, I do believe that there's certain things that chooses us.
Hmm.
At least in my case, I feel this chose me. Everything that I'm doing right now chose me.
Hmm.
And when I say what we're supposed to do, I mean it in the sense of what we're supposed to do now in this present moment.
Hmm.
Because I think that, as I stated before, we can create unnecessary suffering because we miss out on what is it that we're supposed to learn that would make us a better human being, that would connect us to a much more deeper part of ourselves, that at times it could be so hard to access because there are layers that are covering that part of us. And when I say layers, layers can be so many things. It could be beliefs, it could be stories, it could be cultural conditioning, societal
Hmm.
conditionings, things that we have absorbed that came from other people. And so I mean it in that sense, what it is that we're supposed to do that would be of, how would I say this? That would be for the good, not just of yourself, but of others around you as well.
Hmm. So, yeah, you believe in free will.
I do. I do. I do believe in free will. Now, I have to say this. I feel that free will actually comes when we really discover who it is that we are.
Hmm.
And the reason why I say that is because for as long as a part of us that isn't really who we really are is the one that's in the driver's seat of our life, we're not truly free because there's something else that is ruling us. What do I mean with that? I can't even believe that I'm
Hmm.
about to share what I'm about to share. Oh my God. This is very profound. For the longest time, there was a part of me that I hated. And I'm talking about hate in capital letters.
Really?
Oh, yeah. And it took me it took me time to realize that it actually came from a cultural conditioning that I had, societal slash cultural. And I healed that. It was the hugest wound that I had. And for the longest time, because I had that huge wound, it was the wound that was ruling my life. So I wasn't even free. It wasn't until I healed that wound that I was able to be free to be who I really am. And so this is why I say that for as long as some other part of us that isn't our authentic selves, see, your authentic self is empowered. Your authentic self see the possibility. Your authentic self is love. Your authentic self is expansion. Your authentic self, just go back to when you were a child and you will connect with your authentic self. Now, haven't you noticed that children, they are so carefree? They're not worried about anything. They're not worried about, oh my God, this chicha. Chicha is, how do you say this in English? I speak different languages, so sometimes I remember things in one language and not in the other. This fat over here, this fat that is what children are not concerned about that. They think they're beautiful. They think they're smart. That's who we really are, right? And so it isn't until we start growing up and then we're listening to cultural conditioning, societal conditioning, parents, school, this, you name it, plus the way we have interpreted our experiences. I mean, it's a whole host of things that we start disconnecting to who we really are, that no longer our true self is really in the driver's seat. It's all these other elements, layers, as I like to call them, right? That are in the driver's seat. And for as long as that's going on, we don't really have free will, according to Aura. I know
Hmm.
probably you haven't heard that before, nor anyone else, but it's the truth. Like if you really dig deep, that really is the truth.
Yeah, I just wrote down the acronym ATA according to Aura.
Oh my gosh.
Now we go to the next video
I
that I
love
really
that.
enjoyed. Yeah, ATA. Uh, you said don't entertain negativity. And you
Yeah.
go on about how people just kind of sit in it. And too many times we see this on the internet, right? We see this in social media, how the trolls just really take over, and bad news really sells and good news doesn't. And not to entertain that and try to do your best to separate that. It's easier said than done.
Yes, it is. And let me just say this before I say what I'm about to say. I'm going to have to borrow that ATA.
I put it in quotes. Yeah.
Yes. Um,
Negativity.
whatever we whatever we entertain, I'm here accessing the download that I'm receiving because it is juicy what I'm about to say. And it is my sincere desire that everyone watching this and everyone hearing this can really, really take in what I'm about to say. And even hear this again and watch this again because everything here is so juicy. What we're entertaining is an indication of where we're at, even vibrationally. It's an indication of where we're at consciously. And so, if you feel the necessity to entertain negativity of any kind, it's going to be very important that you understand where that's coming from. Where is that coming from? Like, what are you gaining from entertaining this negativity? Where are you right now in this moment in your life that you feel the need to entertain negativity, right? Because, oh, what I'm about to say, some people are not going to like, but it's the truth. But let this sink in because it's going to free you. There's always something that we're getting from whatever it is that we're doing, right? So if you're entertaining negativity, there's something that you're gaining out of it. So, say, for example, if you feel the need to be in this energy of poor me, right? Oh my God, this happened. Oh my God, this other thing happened. And you got to post it on
Self-pity.
social media. Yes, you got to post it on social media. And I want to paint this visual because, well, I'm a very visual person, but for anybody that's watching this and listening to this, if you find yourself doing this, it's going to be important that you catch yourself, right? You're posting on social media all the bad things that are happening, and you that's what you mainly talk about. There's something that you're gaining out of it. So it's going to be important that you understand what are you gaining out of it. And whoever watching this, if this resonates, they're probably thinking, oh my God, I'm not getting anything out of it. All these things are actually happening in my life. What are you talking about? Hear me out. Perhaps what you're gaining out of it, and I just want to use this as an example so that you can see what part of you is gaining something out of it. Probably you're gaining attention, right? You,
Ultimately.
yeah, you want that kind of attention. Aura, how can you be so insensitive? For whoever that's watching this. No, I'm not being insensitive. As a matter of fact, the quicker you can call yourself out on your BS, the freer you're going to be. The quicker you're going to be able to change whatever circumstance that you say that you do not like, right? That's one
Hmm.
thing about me. I call people out on the BS in a very loving way because that is the key to transforming your life at a quicker rate. See, because if you remain in the oh yes and this happened, oh yeah, really, and no, no, right? So let's call it like it is. What are you gaining out of it, right? And why? Does it feel good? Okay. So now that you give it a name, okay, is there any other way that you can get that very thing that you want, but in a more positive way, right? In a way that's going to be productive for you, right? And that's why
That's
that level,
profound.
it is. It is. And that's what's going to empower you, right? When you do that level of digging within yourself, that self-discovery, but really profound. I'm not talking about superficial here because
Hmm.
anybody can do superficial, right? But
It's very easy.
superficial, yeah, it's very easy, but superficial is not what's going to get you the transformation that you want. It's not going to allow you to empower yourself in the way that you need to so that you can transform the areas of your life and of yourself that needs to be transformed, right? You got to dig deep and you got to give it the name that it that is, right? Because that's the only way you're going to change it.
Fascinating. I love the the external way you think through things, where you almost have a dialogue within yourself of what's going to be the reaction and what's the counterpoint. It's very fascinating. Of your coaching and wellness, how much and your advocacy, how much of it is science and how much of it is art?
Mm. I never thought of it as science. I honestly never thought of it as science.
Well, you're using terms like I'm downloading this, and you're having a dialogue with yourself where you actually see the retort of what you're going to say. To me,
Yeah.
that's a bit scientific to me.
I wouldn't say it's scientific as much as very intuitive.
Hmm.
I don't know if it's scientific. I was never that great in science. but but I would say it's more intuitive. I'm very sensitive to energy. Probably that's why my name is Aura. I mean
Ah,
Aura. I'm very sensitive to energy and I allow that openness for me and I like to connect with that deeper self, which I feel that it opens me up to receive the message that I'm meant to receive. I'm also a believer in God. I believe in God. Love to connect with Him. To me, connecting with Him is like connecting with myself, my deepest self. So I would dare to say it's an art that combines compassion, experience, love, because I do everything that I do with so much love. And being very real with people. I like to be very real. I believe that love comes from real, like love requires you to be real, right? And so I just connect with my deeper self and I allow myself to receive whatever it is that I feel that needs to be said or needs to be shared at the moment. I hope that makes sense. I know that there's things that sometimes it seems like it doesn't make sense. I don't even go with logic. I go with what I'm sensing.
But you're an author,
Yes.
and your videos, here's the 3 reasons why you shouldn't have negativity. So you logically place them
Yes.
and then describe them. So I would say that's science, but the message is art. That's just how I perceive it.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you.
Yeah, that's how I perceive it. So oftentimes, the kind of the theme of my conversations that I have is my largest challenges in my life, losing a lot of weight, loss of my sister, these kinds of things, they were remedied, cured, and helped resolve through a form of discipline in one way or another. People ask me, how did you lose 150 pounds? Well, my daughter was born, and the doctor said, hey, if you don't lose weight, you're not going to see your daughter. So I did a bunch of things, and people ask me, how'd you lose your weight? I say, discipline. I don't have a magic answer. I didn't climb trees for 6 months. I worked out and I ate less, all the things you know. So, how important is discipline to wellness?
Oh, it's so important. Discipline is a requirement for purposeful living.
Hmm,
As a self discovery and empowerment coach who helps people gain total clarity so that they can have the purposeful life that they're seeking, right? So that they can wake up every day feeling personally fulfilled and with certainty. Discipline is essential, it is a must. However, I have to say this, I think that discipline is one of those words that can be so misunderstood
hmm,
in the sense that some people may think that they don't have the discipline to do what it is that they want to do. And that is not true. Everybody has the capacity to have the discipline to have and experience the greater well being that they're wanting to experience. What will lead to discipline is having that connection with your authentic self. I am going to explain.
please.
When you can get to the core of what it is that's going to take for you to do what it is that you want to do, that's when you're going to be able to develop the discipline necessary for you to do whatever it is that you want to do. See, in your case, you got to the core that led you to have that discipline to do what it is that you wanted to do. The core
Hmm,
was what you explained earlier, right? All those things that you went through. And so that combined with having a vision, right? And a vision to me is very different from a dream, a goal. This is that you can clearly see what it is that you want. You see it, you feel it. And because you feel it and you see it, that's the only reality that you accept. I'm going to use myself as an
hmm,
example. My journey of weight loss, when I weighed 144 pounds and I went from 144 to 112 pounds, and what I'm about to say may not seem like it makes sense. So just stay with me because it's going to make so much sense and it's going to be of great value for everyone. I rejected the reality that I was 144 pounds. I did not accept that reality. Now, some people may misunderstand that for, oh, you just don't accept yourself for who you are. No, it's quite the opposite. What I'm doing is I'm accepting the vision that I have for myself. See, mistake number three that as human beings we make is that we accept the reality. And by accepting the reality, we become that reality, which then sustains that reality.
hmm.
Ooh, what I just said is very powerful, right? And this is why you hear in the law of attraction this whole thing that you gotta what is it that they say? I don't say it word for word. I'm probably going to butcher it. But in essence, they require you to kind of somewhat not look at reality and just keep present what it is that you want. Hold the feeling of what it is that you want. That's literally what they're saying. You're
Hmm.
rejecting, I'm just saying it in aura words, you're rejecting your reality, which is very different from not accepting yourself. It's not that you're not accepting yourself, you just refuse to believe that this is who you are. And what you are accepting instead is that vision that you see for yourself. Because it's when you do that, that you can then start stepping into the version of you that has the very things that you want.
Hmm.
Because you're going to start behaving like it. See, you behaved like this version of you that you are. And because you behaved, you acquired that version of you before it became a reality. That's why you forged that reality. Does that make sense?
Very interesting.
And so that's how we can start living that purposeful life, which of course includes a greater well-being, right? I'm always going to advocate wellness and greater well-being because that's how I started out as a coach. I started out as a wellness and life coach, helping people get out of the sugar roller coaster. That was not really my passion, but that's how I started. This is my passion, what I'm doing right now. All about purposeful living and self-discovery, because it is when you discover yourself in such a profound way, everything in your life starts coming together.
Very interesting. Now, you mentioned you're a flight attendant. You do a lot of traveling. A lot of your videos are in Spanish.
Oh, yes, I do this work in Spanish as well.
So, is there a need in the Spanish community just as the English speaking? Is there more need? Is there less need?
I think it doesn't matter what culture, what
Hmm.
country, the need for this message, the need for this deep level of connection, I think now more than ever it is needed. What we have to do is look at the news and look at all the craziness going on,
Hmm.
right? Because when we are so disconnected from ourselves, we're not in a loving place. So, oh yeah, this is needed. I think not just in the Spanish community; it's needed in every community, in every culture.
Certainly so. So, how can when you walk somebody through, enlightenment through the path there, what do you do with them? Do you find out where they are? Do you evaluate and see where they want to go, or do they know that themselves? What's that discovery like?
So I guide them through a process, a methodology that I created, and it's called the Aura Blueprint. Yes, it has my name because there's a reason for every letter in my name. The first step, which is the A, is that we're going to assess where you are now, where you desire to be, and what needs to happen to close that gap. But that's not the only thing that we do. And I like to use this analogy because it gives a visual of it's the perfect example. Pilots. Pilots before every flight, the airplane is parked, right? It knows what city it's in, it knows what city it needs to land, right? And they receive the flight map, which is the gap, what's going to close the gap between where they are now and where they want to be. But that's not the only thing that they need. Just like they need to make sure the plane is good in the inside and the plane is good in the outside, we're going to be doing the same thing too. That's what I do with my clients because the thing is, and the plane would be themselves, they are their own vehicle. So it's going to be very important that they understand their readiness for their own journey because there's a reason why they are still parked at the gate, right? So we're gonna assess if they're ready for that journey. The you in the aura blueprint is understanding what has kept them parked all this time. This is the juiciest part, right? And the reason why it's so juicy is because this is where the peeling of the layers start. You start understanding yourself in such a deep level. You're going to start understanding who has been in the captain seat this whole time
Hmm.
because it's from there that you're going to understand why your life has been parked all this time. Now that's where the profound work starts, right? The R in the aura blueprint is realignment. And that's where we're going to realign all the parts of them. And the reason why that's so important is because one thing that anyone may notice is that as they're peeling layers of themselves, they may go through an identity crisis, right? Because it's like, who am I now? Because we have, as human beings, we don't realize sometimes how much we have identified ourselves with the stories that we have told ourselves, with the beliefs that we have held on to, even with the identity of ourselves that we have had, right? That once we start letting go of it, we start peeling it, we could feel naked. We could
Hmm.
feel lost. And so it's so important that once that important work has been done, that you start aligning, realigning yourself with the true you, right? With that vision, with whatever it is that you want. And then the A, the final A in aura, is aliveness, because that's what they're going to feel when they see that the outer world starts matching the inner world.
Hmm.
Because it's the inner world that first needs to change before we can see those changes on the outside. So that's the process that I guide my clients through. It's called Aura Blueprint.
Fascinating. And then you have something else, living life to the max.
Oh, that's the name of the company.
Ah, I say. Viva al Massimo.
Yes.
Very interesting. Well, Aura Martinez, I love what you're doing. I love how you're helping. I really
Thank
enjoyed the
you.
conversation. It was so delightful. And more people need to do this. So, how can people get in touch with you? I want more people to watch your videos and get in touch with you.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been an honor and a pleasure to be here and to speak with you and have this beautiful conversation. People can either follow me on Instagram, Aura Elena Martinez, or Facebook, Aura E Martinez Coach, or they can go to my site, www.aura, A-U-R-A-E, Martinez with a Z at the end.com. There, they're going to be able to learn more about me, what I offer, listen to the podcast, get the book, how to work with me, everything. Everything is there.
Fantastic. Thanks you again. Thank you again. And remember, ATA, according
Yes.
to Aura. Thanks
Thank
again.
you.
Be well. Bye now.
Thank you.